Hello and welcome to the SME Governance Bootcamp for April 2020. This will be a series of video blogs based on seminars that I've been running for my clients for the past 18 months. There's never been a more critical time for SME owners to look critically at their business and decide how they're going to move forward in the future. The turmoil that's been caused by COVID-19 has meant that business is never going to be the same again. Your customers are never going to operate the same again. Your clients, your suppliers, and all those people that you deal with in the business are all going to change the way that they work. So it's a vital time to think about the future and to step back from the normal day-to-day running of your business. And as we all know, for an SME owner, the normal day-to-day is one of balancing so many different aspects, be it working with your board of directors, trying to get a work-life balance with your family, dealing with the challenges of cash flow on a daily basis, building your business plan, dealing with people, and so many other aspects. And in fact, it normally means that there's very little time to address the critical areas of corporate governance in the normal course of things. That is until now. And it would be a great shame if this opportunity were missed, where SME owners will be taking the time to step back from the normal day-to-day routine and think critically and deeply about the future direction of their business. Now, this will be a series of video blogs, and it's targeted at small and medium enterprise owners, typically those who have 5 or more employees in the business. But of course, the lessons that will be shared here can equally be applied to sole traders or smaller businesses, or bigger businesses for that matter. It's very important to stress that we're not going to focus on compliance, which is normally the area of focus for corporate governance. We're actually going to try and focus on practical steps that you can take to look critically at your business and make some improvements very quickly. We'll also be encouraging you to think and act big, just like the large corporations. And the point of this is that if you start to think and act big like large corporations, that mindset is going to enable you to tackle those issues that often are left behind and often we say only concern large corporations. The fact is that every business has the basic things it needs to get right in order to survive and be successful. It's also important to realize that unlike large corporations, where chief executives are generally stewarding shareholder funds which are not their own, that for an SME owner, the whole aspect of running the business is personal, because the buck stops with you, and it means the difference between your survival or not, depending on how successful your business is. From time to time during the presentations, I will be making reference to what I call governance riffs. And this is just a music analogy where I will be repeating several phrases or ideas so that they become embedded in your thinking and that they become part of your normal day speech. And it's also important to recognize that no matter how successful your business is or how successful you think it is, every business can be improved. And if you can move into a mindset where you open your mind to some of the ideas, I hope that these video blogs will prove useful for you. And lastly, to say, this is not about having fancy presentations or fancy slides or graphics and so on. I'm not trying to do that. What I am trying to do is share with you as briefly and concisely as I can good ideas for helping you to review where your business is at now. In terms of the topics that I'll be covering, there's, I hope, something in this list for everybody. And we'll start off by just describing the governance journey, which is a different perspective on corporate governance. We'll then move into drafting a vision statement, which is possibly the most important aspect or the most important starting point for any governance journey. Then we'll talk about drafting a business plan or perhaps redrafting it. And it's clear that every business plan for every SME right now is going to be redrafted and refocused because of the changes that are taking place. It'll be very important to spend some time talking about the board of directors and how to energize your board. Often boards are just simply rubber stamping the activities, and now is a time to really think about energizing your board. A lot of companies unfortunately don't spend enough time in looking at the risks that there are in their business. And of course the current situation has really highlighted that some risks have such a huge impact on the business, and I hope that the lessons we're going to draw on about practical aspects to manage the risks in your business will be useful. It's also important to look at the complexity that there is in your business and to look at areas where you can reduce cost, reduce duplication, and make your business model a lot more simple and I hope a lot more profitable. Anything about corporate governance has to talk about the people in your business, and we will be spending some time about focusing the management team and making sure you have the right team with you and that they're properly focused and accountable for the things you want to achieve. We'll also be looking at some of the critical contracts that there are in your business, and often in the day-to-day activities these are overlooked, they become out of date, and they can end up costing you a lot of time and a lot of money because they have not been properly looked at. Also, we'll be looking at external transparency, and by this I mean how to position yourself and your business to engage with third parties, be they suppliers, lenders, banks, potential investors. There's a lot of proactive steps that are often forgotten that you can easily take to be ready to do this, and no doubt that's going to be very important for all of us after the current situation passes. Some people may also want to be thinking about selling their business or getting ready to sell their business, and it's very important that you take a proactive approach to selling your business, and we'll be talking about some of the key steps that you need to put in place so that you can sell your business at a time and a place and on the best terms possible. We will be turning to family governance because families are different and family-run businesses require certain changes and certain different approaches in order to achieve the goals of the family, which are not always commercial. And lastly, we'll be talking about how to look at controlling and managing the use of technology in your business, because we'll all be looking at smarter technology to run and operate the business, but it's very important that this is done in a very controlled way, or it can end up costing you a lot of time and effort and really putting your business in trouble. And of course, along the way, if I do get feedback or there's other interest in other topics, I'll be very happy to address those as we move forward. So that's the agenda, and let's go on now and talk about the first part, which is the starting of the corporate governance journey. And in essence, there are three parts that I just want to quickly measure and mention. The first is a different definition of corporate governance, and this comes from the world of carpentry. And my grandfather was a master carpenter, and he had a phrase, measure twice and cut once. And it is consistently the best definition of corporate governance, and it simply means that you have to put in place second measures, second approvals, secondary appraisals of key decisions and key risks that you're going to take in the business. And if you can adopt that mindset where you are putting in place the right procedures, the right policies and the right controls, in order to make the right decisions for your business, then you're going to put yourself on the right course. And of course, those policies, procedures and controls, they are a mixture of formal written controls, and of course they are also about the culture that's in your organization. The next aspect of the journey is about defining your role as the owner. And I make reference here to a very good book called The E-Myth Revisited, which was written by Michael E. Gerber some time ago. And in this, he describes there are 3 specific roles in any business. Firstly, you have the entrepreneur, and this is the person who supplies the vision and encourages people with the great idea and the great vision of the future. The second person in the business is the manager, and this is the person who has the systems and the processes and ensures that all the resources and the people are all controlled and moved around and focused as necessary in order to run the business. And then the third person is the technician. This is the person who makes the stuff, who sells the stuff, who does the groundwork that's required in any business. So they are the 3 roles: the entrepreneur, the manager and the technician. Now the challenge is for any SME owner is to move into a mindset where they clearly understand that they cannot be all 3. And this is so often the case of major failures in small and medium enterprises, that the owner of the business tries to do everything, and of course that means that they don't do anything very well. So if you can move on in terms of your mindset to accepting that you need to try and focus and define one role for yourself in the business, and then move on to surround yourself with the right team, then you are going to liberate your thinking and you are going to ensure that you get the best use of your talent and of course the talent of people around you. And then the last part of the journey is basically symbolized by the shamrock, which is talking about 3 aspects of an integrated journey. 25% of the corporate journey is about putting in place a formal corporate governance framework, which is written processes and rules and policies, including your articles of association, including how the board works, including delegation of authority, whatever other aspect you want to mention. And they are only 25% of what is called the framework for corporate governance. Then the second 25% is about change management and engaging all the stakeholders there are in the business, be those outside or inside. And that's everybody inside, including employees and the management and anyone else who's involved inside the business, plus also people who are on the outside of the business, be those investors, be those lenders, be those suppliers, be those the publicity and press, whoever it is that is outside. And it's really important that you spend time to engage all the stakeholders in the business, prioritize who are the ones that are really critical and who are the ones who are less critical. And if you're going to bring in any changes into the business, it's very important that you introduce those changes gradually and in a planned way. So between the framework and the stakeholder engagement, that is 50% of the corporate journey. The last 50% is about doing things. It's about taking those practical steps day by day and making sure that things get done. And of course that requires planning, it requires milestones, it requires clear accountability up and down the organisation, deadlines and who is responsible for what. And lastly, of course, especially highlighted by the current days we're living through, is that the journey and the implementation plans all need to be regularly updated in light of what's happening to the business inside and out. So if you take those 3 elements of a framework, stakeholder engagement and implementation plans, those are three elements of the integrated journey that forms part of the corporate governance journey overall. So I want to end here now and just do a quick recap on some of the key concepts that have been introduced. Obviously, we're going to run through a really interesting agenda for corporate governance and for you to look at different aspects of your business. I want to highlight that you need to look at the corporate governance journey in a different way, and I use the mantra or the riff, measure twice and cut once. And if you can embed that in your head, I think that's going to be a great start. You need to focus on your strengths and really be honest and critical about what role you want to play inside the organisation. And lastly, this is an integrated journey where you have to bring together formal procedures, where you have to engage stakeholders across the business, and where you have to have practical plans in place to achieve the goals you set. So if you want to give me any feedback on that, please email me there. So it's john.corpadvisor@gmail.com, and you have there the Twitter link. We'll be doing the next topic shortly, and that's going to be how to draft a vision statement. Thanks very much. Hello and welcome.